We have invited Candace Frazier here to Good Morning Arizona. She's the Senior Vice President of Operations at TTI Success Insights. Again, focusing on the interview right now, Candace. In the last hour, we talked about resumes. So let's go ahead and talk about the sticky situation or position of being somebody who was laid off. How do you explain that in a way that doesn't disadvantage you?
Absolutely, Gina. So the first thing that I would recommend for any candidate is to not overthink this. There are a lot of other people that are in a similar situation. I think it's important to acknowledge the fact and even talk with the interviewer about the fact that you were furloughed or released or laid off as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, but also to focus on the fact that it was for budgetary reasons and not for performance reasons. But quickly move forward to what your future looks like. Don't dwell on the past too much. Really focus on the impact that you can have on that organization.
So Candace, there are lots of folks that have to make a complete shift, quite literally looking maybe at a completely different industry. How do you take your skills, say if you worked in the restaurant industry, and translate that and convince somebody that you can translate into a whole different field altogether?
The most important thing that a candidate can do is to share their story. Sometimes if candidates stay focused on the industries that they were in, they can kind of appear a little bit disjointed or even like a wet blanket. So a structure that we often recommend that people use for any interview question that comes their way relative to the industry that they're in or the previous one is to first state the situation, next state the idea that you had relative to that situation or problem, then move to the action that you took and the results that you had as a result of your activity. So staying focused on those four things and really focusing on the story will help someone to translate over into a newer industry.
And on that very note, Candace, talk to us about thinking outside the box, because if you are in an industry like the restaurant industry, for example, there's a good chance you're not going to be able to find a job in that industry right now. So tell us how we should be thinking outside of the box and looking at other options, other avenues, other industries.
I think it's really important to discuss the skills that are transferable and the skills that are of the future. So for example, a great trendy topic right now is emotional intelligence. In fact, they're even teaching this in elementary schools today. So if I were a candidate or if I had someone that were a candidate, I would be very impressed if they were to actually be talking about how they're working on their emotional intelligence in the previous industry or in previous roles, and even in the roles that they're in today. I would focus on self-awareness, self-regulation, social awareness, social regulation, and how I stay motivated if I were a candidate. So I would recommend that any candidate today stay focused on their emotional intelligence and their skills for the future.
Okay, real quickly, for those of us who aren't familiar, what exactly is emotional intelligence?
Emotional intelligence is the ability to regulate yourself and to regulate others to have a positive outcome in a social interaction.
And that certainly is a skill that can translate into any industry. Candace Frazier from TTI Success Insights, thank you so much. Really appreciate all the good advice this morning.
Thank you, Gina.